They're illegible. Sorry, now we're ready.
Well, I mean, I already started. So good intro. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and neither, welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, episode 37. My name is Michael Deebs. I am the host. It is April 2nd, 2021. If this episode fell on a different date, we would be doing some kind of kooky joke or something. Was very disappointed when I found out that the Friday was after April Fool's Day, but
yeah, April Fool's jokes are usually like so funny and good.
Yeah, no, I wanted to do something really original by making an April Fool's joke on the podcast, but
hey guys, I'm pregnant.
Oh, no way. So I am, of course, joined by Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle @DankTheLose, and also producer John. Danko, how are you doing today, sir?
Well, I made a meme that doesn't work very well, and I'm trying to work that out.
You did do that right before we started recording, yeah.
Yeah,
you actually made us
I
wait.
mentioned it as we recorded, and it wasn't good. And I'm gonna have to redo it, and so I'm I don't know, I'm not doing too good.
Well, that's a massive failure. So I understand why you would really like take that to heart personally.
Yeah, I mean, after April Fool's Day, like you're supposed to be funnier in April.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's what that was what T.S. Eliot said. April is the funniest month.
Yeah, and then you have those residual effects off of April Fools.
Exactly.
That last well into May sometimes. John, how are you doing today?
My spirit isn't as crippled as Danko, but that's because I don't try at anything.
There you go. Yeah.
So
that's
pretty
my
good.
First mistake.
You lower the expectations for yourself. You never have to face any kind of crippling, sense of defeat.
No. I remove mirrors everywhere that I live.
We've done those relationship advice things, and both of those are actually the key to long-term relationships. Remove all the mirrors from your home and keep very low expectations of everyone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
No self-reflection is the key to a long relationship.
Yep.
Actually, that reminds me. I don't think we really checked the question.
Oh my god, the email. I'm sure it's full. Hundreds of messages.
Yeah, hundreds of them.
Actually, while you find that, I'm pretty sure
we don't have any new questions.
Nothing. I'm pretty sure the general rule is after you have 40 episodes out, if you don't have 1 million followers, you have to stop podcasting.
Well, that's if you're
easily attainable.
Hillary Clinton and you just had or Michelle Obama, didn't she start a podcast for a little bit?
I know Mr. Obama started his whole fucking thing with Bruce Springsteen.
The Renegades podcast or whatever.
What a name. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What?
Noted renegade Barack Obama. Completely turned the nation on its head by wearing a tan suit once.
And Dijon mustard. Don't forget the mustard.
Dijon mustard, which is a rich man's mustard that you can buy for like $3.15 at Albertsons.
Why haven't we decided to listen to Obama's podcast and respond to that? That's an upcoming project.
I mean,
I'll sacrifice myself for this.
You know what we should do? We should make a super cut of like best Hillary Clinton podcast moments, best Barack Obama podcast moments, and what's the other one? I think there's another one that's Michelle Obama.
Comey probably has one.
Yeah. Whatever cringe ass neo-lib we can find.
Hell yeah.
Funny story. My municipality that I work for has a podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a goddamn podcast.
An official one for the region that I work in. And the Benzo Rehab Dungeon has outperformed that podcast, which is advertised on a web page that lots of people visit. So they suck.
Right. You know, my buddy Mike, he has a podcast. I'm on it occasionally. I'm on most of them, actually, I think. So if you guys want to check that out, that's the Benzo Rehab Dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
You can find it on Spotify.
Dorian, where are you right now? Are you in a fugue state again?
Oh, yeah, sorry. This happens. Sorry, I'm in a surrealist mood, I guess.
Speaking of the Benzo Rehab Dungeon on Instagram, hit 1,000 followers today. Thank you to everybody who follows, and new listener, please stick through whatever this is, and we'll get to some real content soon.
If you're checking us out right now because of one of my recent anti-Jordan Peterson posts, not even anti, just Jordan Peterson posts that are implicitly anti, I guess. Yeah. And I told you to listen to our podcast because we talk about Peterson. We don't always talk about him, but we will talk about him a bit today in a substantive way. Substantive. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Substantive. Substantial.
Substantive.
Substack.
You're putting the emphasis on the wrong part of the word, which is
the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, emphasis. Yeah. All right. So first things first. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this because Matt Gaetz is a fucking demon that's not even like worth the time.
I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on anything we talk about here.
Fair enough.
This is
so Matt Gaetz is under investigation for sex trafficking allegations. I mean, I'm ready to just go on record saying he's guilty.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really surprising that a man that looks like that would be accused of sleeping with minors.
Yeah. So before
you're telling me with that chin, he can't pick up a fully grown adult woman.
He looks like fucking Quagmire.
Like there's absolutely like an ironic Chad Gates meme like in the works somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
The Virgin Tucker Carlson versus the Chad Matt Gaetz. So yeah, when I first heard that there were sex trafficking allegations about Matt Gaetz, Dorian, we covered this in an earlier episode, but his weird relationship with his adopted son. You remember that?
I do.
His son Nestor, who he originally called a helper, and then later on it evolved into son.
Well, that's after people gave him shit about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, over time, you're allowed into the house, and then you become a helper or you become a son rather than a helper. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
This is a long-honored American tradition.
Yeah, you move in from a cabin in a field where you toil away, and then you get to serve lemonade later.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's yeah. All right.
Mike,
so
have you seen? Sorry to interrupt again. I'm interrupting today.
It's fine, it's fine.
Have you seen Get Out yet?
No.
You still gonna do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Just serving lemonade made me think of it.
Okay.
And everything.
If I had watched the movie, like I said, I will 1,000 times, I would get that reference, but I haven't. So.
Well, I think you got the reference anyway. But
okay. Yeah. It is a weird thing. So, this is Matt Gaetz talking to Tucker Carlson and like implicitly also throwing Tucker Carlson under the bus, which is just amazing stuff. And you know, I would be willing to believe that Tucker Carlson doesn't have a squeaky clean record either, but he doesn't have a weird helper son thing going on. So I'm less inclined to go on record saying that he's also guilty of some things. John, if you would please roll the clip.
The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You're accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like. You know the pain it can bring to your family, and you know how it just puts people on defense when you're accused of something so salacious and awful.
You just referred to a mentally ill viewer who accused me of a sex crime 20 years ago, and of course it was not true. I never met the person. But I do agree with you that being accused falsely is one of the worst things that can happen, and you do see it a lot. What is the basis of that investigation? What is the allegation? That's really not very clear from these news stories.
Yeah, again, I only know what I've read in the New York Times. I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble. And so I do believe that there are people at the Department of Justice who are trying to smear me.
Who are they? Who is this girl?
So basically what he just said there is, hey, you remember that one time I brought a hooker to dinner? You were there. You remember it, right?
Well, they threatened my very nice hooker.
And let's be clear for a moment. There is absolutely nothing wrong with sex work. And, you know, I think if there is anything problematic to be found in this story, it's that, you know, the thing that they're trying to nail him on is that he's paid for sex, which I think is okay. And if you look like that, and like, what other options do you have?
Yeah, the problem is kids.
Yes, kids is the problem. Absolutely.
Yeah, like consent and yeah.
But you know, the woman that he's talking about here, I believe, is not underage. The problem that's being presented is that he may have paid for her company, which again is not like a moral issue. You know
also,
what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. This is absolutely speculation and probably admittedly false, but based on Tucker's following response to this, it does. I would still believe that she's a kid.
Yeah, no, I yeah, of course,
yeah.
But as far as I know, per what the New York Times released, like this particular individual he's referencing is not a kid, just somebody who may be a sex worker.
So is there not a minor involved?
No, there is definitely a minor involved. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
These are two different women. There's a minor who was flown out somewhere, and so it's when he says, you know, that the allegation is that he traveled with a 17-year-old. He's being very careful in his wording there, because the allegation is not that he traveled with a 17-year-old. The allegation is that he flew a 17-year-old somewhere and met her there and did whatever they do. So that's the trafficking charge, as they crossed state lines, and he's you know, potentially hiring a minor for sex and crossing state lines, so that qualifies as child sex trafficking.
Dude, as much as I hate bureaucracy and as much it gets in the way of things, the elastic clause in the Constitution about interstate commerce is so fucking funny. How it gets used to like pull shit apart. Like, it's that's another thing to nerd about at some point in time. But like the amount of uses that the interstate commerce clause has seen to make like Supreme Court decisions, or to like pin people for shit, that and like wire fraud, which are pretty similar. Ultimately, but like they're like under the same categories. But
that's along the same lines of like anything substantive that's happened against like Trump and any of his cronies is
wire fraud stuff for sure.
Yeah, like all these little nerd rules, like actually what you did was wrong because you flubbed a zero here, and you know, like,
well, it's even
dumb shit, you know. It's not like, oh, you imprisoned children at the border, you illegally assassinated a foreign military leader. It's like you handled money wrong.
Right. I mean, that's true. But the thing about like the interstate commerce clause and stuff like that, that's so interesting to me. And I won't do like a whole thing about this, but is that it makes it so like the way that our country is built, it makes it so that the federal government, despite being the federal government and having like an inordinate amount of power in a lot of ways, it still has pretty limited power, like in when it comes to charging people with crimes, unless they're very specific, because most of this stuff is under like state purviews. And so the interstate commerce clause and wire fraud laws end up coming into play because anything that moves between states, anything having to do with borders, immediately the federal government can come into play with. Right, and it's just like such an interesting like angling and kind of tactics thing. It's really
I get it, and I'm glad that it's being used in useful ways. I just think it's funny how it's like
right.
It's never the actual
white collar
reason.
stuff.
Yeah, it's never the actual reason that somebody should be, prosecuted.
Yeah, and like it's certainly been used. Both of these been used for obviously like awful things, but it's also been used to make it so that it's a large portion of why we don't have like hotels just for white people. Like interstate commerce clause, things like that, and so it's. And bringing down people like him potentially. So a lot of really cool, interesting applications. Anyway.
No, that's good insight. Let's just go ahead and run the rest of this. I think he says some more pretty interesting stuff.
What are they talking about? The New York Times.
The person doesn't exist. I have not had a relationship with a 17-year-old. That is totally false.
If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted. I don't think that clarified much, but it certainly showed this is a deeply interesting story, and we'll be following it. Don't quite understand it, but we'll bring you more when we find out.
There's something missing from that interview, which I was referring to.
Business finances from anyone.
Oh no!
Oh no! You clicked on the ad.
but it's him telling Gaetz, I don't remember that person from the dinner.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in the more complete clip, he ends up
that was Tucker's.
No, I don't.
Tucker's way of saying, "What the fuck are you doing, bro?"
Yeah, right.
We don't talk about our dinner prostitutes on live television.
Yeah,
it's
also his wife now knows that he went to dinner with a prostitute.
That's true. But yeah, as toxic and like terrifying as Tucker is, it is really fun, like seeing how frequently he throws his like alleged buddies under the bus, like how willing he is to do that.
Oh yeah,
and he's got to survive.
One of the things I was gonna bring up with this clip is like this is the clear difference between somebody who's like really just actually dumb and a grifter like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah,
like, Tucker Carlson doesn't actually believe what he's saying. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it very intentionally to make money, of course. Matt Gaetz is just a catastrophically dumb person.
Yeah, and I just a fun fact about Tucker is that he hails from La Jolla, California, which is a place that I've spent a lot of time, though not as much as I could because it's extremely posh. But it's really funny just having that knowledge because everyone from La Jolla is Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he
but
is
they're
like
dentists. They're all dentists.
He's the human embodiment of a boat shoe, right?
Like... yeah.
And that's La Jolla. So go ahead and click on the next link so we can
wash our mouths.
Yeah. Well, no, not wash our mouths.
Oh no!
Let's go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. This is about Tucker Carlson's weird son. Just keep going down.
Nestor's looking good. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is from The Root, and the article title is "We Still Need to Talk About Rep. Matt Gaetz' son Nestor." Keep going down just a little bit more.
Nestor in quotes, of course.
There's an Instagram post that you'll see. I think.
Sweet.
Just a little bit further. Yeah. So yep. Sorry, Twitter. Just a little bit down. But yeah, so this is where he referred to his Cuban son as a helper before he was officially adopted, I guess. I don't know. I think you can play that link.
Oh, all right.
As you guys can see, I've got my helper Nestor here. I'm at my parents' house out in Walton County. We've got, as you guys can see,
He almost fucked up.
Yeah, he
and
almost
called him
said
his
son. Yeah, he
Yeah.
almost said son, but he said
Yeah.
helper instead. So weird. I think the FBI should maybe look into that relationship as well. I don't know.
Are there any allegations connecting him and Epstein?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's.
Yeah, I haven't heard
he's
anything
old
like
blood
that,
enough to have been on the Epstein plane.
Fair. Yeah, it's interesting how all these people like to trade in people.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
also
surprise.
notable is Matt Gaetz was the only person to vote no on a human trafficking bill like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Literally the only person. Like every Republican was on board with it, every Democrat was on board with it, except for Matt Gaetz.
What a fucking weird thing to do. Like,
yeah, of all the things
he knew he was going to be right, but like even if it's in your interest to like not have that law come about, like
yeah, he's not going to win.
Everyone
so
is
like...
voting. Yeah, if you're going to be the only fucking person.
That's why I'm saying he's just a catastrophically dumb person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that exact moment is when this article started coming out. Like, why is he the only person that voted no? Let's look into this a little bit. So let's wash our mouths by going to the George Floyd case.
Oh, nice.
This is actually good. This is a new segment that I'm gonna call Chad of the Week. And this is probably the first and last time that we'll have this segment, but
most segments are only good once. So.
Yeah. And if we had a graphics team, like we would just splash a like one-time graphic up here, but we don't have that.
You're our graphics team.
Yeah, it's me, yeah. And I get drunk a lot, so I don't like finish any of my projects.
Yeah, that's fair. Understandable.
A bunch of hats.
So this is I think his name is Donald Williams. That's what's coming to mind, right? Yeah, Donald Williams. I see it on the sidebar there. And he's one of the witnesses to the murder of George Floyd. Obviously, the trial is very contentious. I think there's a possibility that Derek Chauvin walks free, and if so, Minnesota should be burned to the ground. I think we've surpassed the need for Minneapolis, not Minnesota. Why did I say Minnesota? Minneapolis.
Also Minnesota.
Yeah. Both. Let's just go for both. But no, I mean, if Derek Chauvin walks free, yeah, there should be some kind of public response to that, and I believe there will be. But this is one of the witnesses, and he's responding to the defense lawyer for Derek Chauvin, who is going down this really weird path of trying to demonize everybody that was in the area as like actually the bad guys somehow. Because he really has no recourse because everybody's seen the video and everybody can go, oh yeah, that's a fucking murder. But this is just a very Chad exchange between this gentleman Donald Williams, and I have no qualms saying that the lawyer for Derek Chauvin is a complete demon, because he was also the lawyer for the cop that killed Philando Castile. This lawyer has a track record of defending cops that kill black people for no reason.
People don't seem to realize, that they talk about like wolves in this kind of situation, but if you get bit by a pig, you become one.
He's a werepig. So Derek Chauvin's lawyer is questioning Donald Williams about how Donald Williams was talking to Derek Chauvin, basically trying to verbally coerce Derek Chauvin into getting his fucking knee off of George Floyd's neck. So anyways, go ahead and roll this. We will roll this all the way through. Just an appreciation of how much of a Chad this guy is.
For sure.
So no interruptions, please.
All right.
You called him a tough guy.
I did.
You called him a real man.
I did.
You called him such a man.
I did.
You called him bogus.
I did.
You called him a bum at least 13 times.
That's what you counted in the video?
That's what I counted.
And that's what you got, 13.
And that was early on, right? Those terms grew more and more angry. Would you agree with that?
They grew more and more pleading for life.
All right. After you called him a bum 13 times, you called him a bum.
That's what you heard?
Did you say that?
Is that what you heard?
I'm asking you, sir.
I'm pretty
Did
sure
you
I
say
did.
that?
You heard that. I'm pretty sure you did.
You call him a
Actually, we'll pause it right there.
Sure. I'm sure that's
I'm
what I did.
asking you. Did you say
So the line that he says is, "You called him a fucking punk ass bitch," and the gentleman obviously responds, "Yeah, I did."
Yeah. Well, I love the vitriol in this lawyer's face. Like, did you say these words
How
to
dare
a law
you
enforcement
call? Yeah,
officer?
you called a police officer a fucking punk ass bitch.
Yeah.
How dare you?
And
how could he not crush the life out of a living man?
Right. And how his entire response, I'm sorry, what's the gentleman's name?
Donald Williams.
Donald Williams is somewhere in between the Chad Yes meme and
Yes.
the and like literally, I mean this is a maybe an extreme kind of comparison to make. I don't like comparing people to Jesus for a variety of reasons, but also like literally Jesus on the stand before his crucifixion, just saying like, I am what you say I am. Yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
No, I like that comparison. This dude
Yeah.
fucking rules, and
Yeah.
we'll see in a second just how fucking cool he is.
Awesome.
All right.
say that?
If that's what the video recorded, so I did.
You called him a
If that's a video you heard from the video,
It's
that's
a
what I
yes or
did.
no, sir.
If that's what was heard in the video, yes, I did.
And at one point, you said that Officer Tao pushed you.
That's correct. He didn't. He put his hand in my chest, is what I said.
And you observed Officer Tao push someone else, right? Or feel like he pushed someone else.
I didn't let him touch anyone else.
Do you recall saying, "I dare you to touch me like that. I swear I'll slap the both of you"?
Yeah, I did. I meant it.
So again, sir, it's fair to say that you grew angrier and angrier.
No, I grew professional and professional, and I stayed in my body. You can't pay me out to be angry.
King.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
fucking king moment. Like, oh my god, sir, you dropped this crown. Yeah, no, just that fucking you said if you touch me like that, I'll slap the fuck out of both of you. Yeah, I did. I meant it too.
That's great.
It's fucking great.
This is sworn testimony. I would slap the shit out of a cop.
So you know, I
On the
hope that
record.
one of the lessons that I think we all need to learn about the Derek Chauvin George Floyd thing is if you see a cop do that, you know, maybe don't be don't stand by.
Act professionally as this man did.
Yeah.
More and more
act very
professional.
Become the most professional person you could
The
possibly
most
be.
That's a good phrase. Be the most professional. I mean, if the cops could be professional about their jobs, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can't expect that because there were people like Donald Williams
Saying mean words.
Yeah, calling the cops bums for trying to murder somebody in front of them and then succeeding in that murder.
Dude, just
Oh yeah.
just train cops by having them like do a retail job for a week.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
yeah. Well, that's
So
how you know
they
all
can-
these
they
all
can
these
shoot
people.
some more people.
You know, this
No
is
guts,
something that
just-
John and I know from the military. Is a lot of these people come straight from high school and they never have to like work a job where they're degraded and put down.
right.
And they don't understand like how those power structures work and they get very offended anytime you do degrade them in some way or like call them out on their bullshit because this is the only job they've ever had is having absolute power.
Yeah. The only difference in my experience, you know, not being someone who was in the military. The only difference between the guy with the hot couch that always says stuff like, if a drill instructor ever fucking yelled at me, I'd punch him out, and a guy who gets yelled at by a drill instructor and doesn't in fact punch them out, is the fact that one of them was faced with a drill instructor.
Right. Yeah. No. For
it's
sure.
the only difference. Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, Chad, and then also highlight the demon in the room, which is the lawyer that keeps on defending cops that kill black people for no reason.
Yeah, let's not over glorify them by calling them demons. I mean, maybe ghouls at best. But...
Fair enough. So that was Chad of the week.
Beautiful.
Let's go ahead and move on to Biden infrastructure.
All right.
Oh,
I wish he would move on to Biden infrastructure.
Hey.
yeah.
So the big takeaway is that Biden's proposed plan is to spend $2 trillion on infrastructure and jobs related to infrastructure. And I won't say that this is all bad, because infrastructure is crucial. Working in the field of infrastructure, I know how bad some things are in parts of the country. Dorian has done work in this field as well. Just investigative work, I guess. Is that adequate description? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And so
that and just sorry, the little starting note, but something that I think is maybe obvious to the listener, but one of the keys in reviving an economy in a way that is like just and ultimately pretty much, it should be non-controversial across all party lines, is producing giant infrastructure projects. And we've done it historically, and it's fucking worked. You just produce jobs through infrastructure. You do other things as well, obviously, but I mean, this is absolutely crucial. Yeah.
Yep. So it's crucial. The only real problem I have with it is it's not nearly enough, because that $2 trillion is over the course of 8 years. So yeah, that really kind of puts like a limited scope on what can be done.
Yeah.
So if we scroll down a little bit, there's kind of a breakdown of where all the money goes.
And also go ahead. Sorry. Whenever you see one of these deals that goes on for 8 years is a convenient time, because it's also like, really, it's only going to be 4 years, hopefully, and then it's a way to like hang something over your head come voting time.
Yep, for sure.
But, yeah. Sorry, go on.
So transportation infrastructure is just up a little bit, $621 billion. Again, over the course of 8 years, it's not nearly enough for what needs to be done. Go down a little bit more. Electric vehicles, including a network of 500,000 EV stations, $174 billion. One of the things my municipality tried to do a couple of years ago is a bunch of EV stations. And judging by the cost of what it was going to take for us to install it in just my small area, that $174 billion is not going to cover 50,000 EV stations. Let alone 500,000.
Right.
Amtrak's repair backlog, $80 billion. I would imagine that's not nearly sufficient. Infrastructure resiliency to withstand climate-related disasters. Kind of like putting a Band-Aid on like a arterial wound, but I guess
$50 billion worth of sandbags.
Yeah, $50 billion worth of sandbags, exactly.
I mean, honestly, that's what it sounds like it would come out to anyway, because we're talking about 50 states.
Structures.
So divided by 8, so that's 0.125 billion per state for that. So yeah, that's not a gratuitous amount of money. But also, it's one of those things where, I mean, that your Band-Aid metaphor is apt, or simile, but because we're not doing anything about it, we better start investing in a lot of fucking Band-Aids.
Yeah, right. No, of course. It's only gonna, like, more arterial wounds are gonna pop up, and we're gonna have like not enough Band-Aid for the first one, let alone the second, third, and fourth ones. Modernize bridges, highways, roads, and main streets that are in most critical need of repair. Most critical need of repair seems like a very choice set of words there, because there's more than just those points of infrastructure. Upgrade airports, cool, 25 billion.
I mean, that's really important too, but also like such a
It's not a first order set of business, I would say.
Maybe like a second order. I do think maybe the importance of something like that is kind of understated.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying, like,
right.
In terms of priority, that's not the first one.
Yeah, I mean, based on like the like ratios in this list and stuff, it's probably at like the right point of the like the
comparatively.
tiers, but comparatively.
Modernize public transit, 85 billion. Maybe Pete Buttigieg is gonna get some trains he can play with or something.
Well, I mean, he's got to have trains. It's Biden. He needs to. We got to have the trains.
Well, I mean, that's what when he became transportation secretary, and people were like, "Why are you becoming transportation secretary?" His immediate and his continual response is like, "I love trains a lot. I've always liked trains. As a young boy, I played with trains and I memorized lots of different trains."
And I mean, that's just because he knows that Biden is obsessed with Amtrak and the trains and stuff, and so it's like him doing a little fist bump.
Are we being ableist by making fun of two clearly autistic people?
I mean, same.
So something I found annoying about the connect neighborhoods historically cut off by investments, which
euphemistic.
I being facetious, I'm sure that they don't literally mean connecting them with roads, unless they do. I don't know, because
they might, I don't know, like food deserts and stuff like that. I don't know.
So it cost about $2 to $3 million per mile to fucking create a road. Which, I mean, a lot of this other shit that they're talking about too, that fucking, what is it? Yeah, highways, roadways, 115 billion.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just bothered me. That it's just like it's like food.
Right.
No, it's like Trump's wall.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, historically, that's kind of what this is. It's just like there are infrastructural kind of walls in a certain sense around a lot of these communities. Again, like and another one that we're going to bring up is the waterways, and both of those were really important to the kind of investigation stuff that I did in Chicago, where both the road infrastructure as well as obviously like the abstract infrastructure of debt and financing and everything in these spaces. I mean, all of this is connected, because when you have these waterways and stuff like that, which are innately connected to these communities, there is a violent discordance between like the publicly traversed roadways outside of and into these communities, which are actually the laborers for all the people that work on these waterways for things like transporting oil sands and stuff, versus the private or semi-private infrastructure used to drag all the stuff out of it. Right. But yeah, the waterways is up there too, and it's not nearly enough.
Just a little bit
obviously.
So 17 billion. 17 billion for inland waterways, coastal ports, land ports of entry, and ferries.
Maybe that'll buy enough tarps for the fucking boats carrying like manganese down the fucking Chicago River.
So one of the things that I've learned over, I guess I've been in like building industries for about 10 years now. Water always makes everything way more complicated and expensive.
Oh yeah.
And so if that's the amount of money that you're going to spend on these inland water, it's a drop in the bucket.
And water joke.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys got it. And you know, again, keeping in mind that this is over the course of 8 years, that they're going like 17 billion would not be enough in 1 year to get everything back up to where it needs to be. All of this stuff is not what we need in 1 year to get it back up to where it needs to be. So this is just critically underfunded as a plan to begin with. And, you know, now we have to go through negotiations with the Republican Party, who's obviously going to want to cut this back. Because it's going to make them look bad when the Democrats put forward a bill that like does anything substantive to make jobs and infrastructure like remotely reliable. And then you've got also the austerity Democrats like fucking Joe Manchin, who wants his name out there all the time, and so he's just going to be a fucking douchebag about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. One more thing just to harp on it, because you know, as soon as we talk about waterways and stuff, I become this guy. Yes. But just the costs for doing the necessary constructions to do something like reversing the Chicago River, which is and has been entirely, again, the Chicago River is a canal built by the Army Corps of Engineers, not an actual river either, which is notable because this again is infrastructure. Guess how much that costs? Just wild guess.
I'm gonna guess 25 billion.
18 billion. So more than the entire plan makes up for here for 8 years. Granted, that's a 25-year project that we're talking about there, but it's only one project.
Right.
Yeah.
And this shit takes fucking time.
It does take a lot of time. Yeah. As somebody that works in government-run infrastructure, and you know, people will say whatever they want about like, oh, this is just an inefficiency of government that takes so much time, but really what it is there's just so much to the process if you want to get things done right. You can get things done bad very cheaply and very quickly and then have to deal with the problems forever and forever. And that's a lot of what our infrastructure problems are, is that we did things quick, cheap, and easy. That's a constant problem that I run into in my own job, is looking back on like the building records for you know, something that's broken in like a major pipe for a building or something like that, and looking back on the building records and going like, who fucking thought this was a good idea? And then like, oh, it was, you know, significantly cheaper, so they decided to go with this and let the next guy deal with the problem, and I'm the next guy, you know.
Also, this is maybe secondary, not in how much it matters, maybe secondary in how much it matters, but in kind of orders of relation to infrastructure. But it would be nice to see or hear something about the Superfund projects and how we're dealing with those, especially since the EPA has been so gutted by the Trump administration.
And so there's something in this article that I believe before the so if you scroll up, John, there's number 1 before this like infographic style thing, just a little bit up.
Down at the 1, right?
No. A little bit further. There's something about tax increases for corporations.
Right.
Biden is increasing the corporate tax rate to 28% after Trump cut it down to 21%.
21. Yeah.
What it was before Trump
40
was 35%.
Yeah, right.
So really just kind of splitting the difference there between the Obama era policy, which wasn't enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's Biden, right?
Yeah, from the Trump era policy, which was obviously just like grossly favoring corporation and profit making incentives.
Tying these things together and maybe giving clarification to people that haven't heard our rants about the super funds and stuff. Essentially what that is a project that was put together under Nixon, believe it or not, because the rivers were literally on fire. Literally on fire.
Well, when something that extreme happens, it doesn't really matter who's president, you know?
Yeah. But
something's going to get done.
Right. With the founding of the EPA and everything, the Superfund project it's a super fund. It's a giant fund that corporations are supposed to pay into through different taxes, when they are producing things like toxic waste. And all of this money is supposed to go to these spaces that are toxified and need remediation. And of course, they're dodging all these taxes. And so that's one reason the Superfund is not a fund, even at this point in time. But in addition to that, lawsuits are then filed in order to, extract the money from responsible parties when responsible parties can be found. But of course, it just becomes an externality for these companies where they can just say, well, okay, we'll just tie it up in the courts for forever so we don't have to do the cleanup. And so that's, again, something that doesn't see any money coming into it. And so it would potentially be a drain from the government if they even felt like paying for it. But even relatively major Superfund issues like Camp Pendleton and, believe it or not, the Calumet cluster that I was talking about with its extreme toxicity is still pretty low on the roster, but even the ones that are higher up are still looking at remediation models that are like, we'll figure it out in a couple decades, both because of funding and because of bureaucracy and because no one wants to do anything about it. So the taxing of these companies is necessary for something like cleaning this shit up, but of course it's not going to be used on that.
Right. Yep. So that was the infrastructure portion of the podcast.
Very cool.
Yeah. One thing I did want to point out is so this is $2 trillion over an 8-year span of time. I looked up very quickly earlier how much the U.S. government spent on the military in a single year, and it turns out that it's like 918 billion.
Surprise!
So
I'm surprised it's under $1 trillion. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised it's under $1 trillion too. That's the estimate, mind you. The Pentagon still doesn't actually know how much money it always spends per year. It's just got
doesn't know how many bases it has. It doesn't know.
Yeah,
it doesn't
got
know,
like a rough estimate of what's going on there.
Yeah.
But over the course of this 8-year span, we're gonna spend $2 trillion on desperately needed infrastructure that's allowing us to like literally live in some cases when it comes to like water sources and waterways and stuff like that. Our abilities to move around the country, whether it's for your job or literally moving like I'm trying to do right now because California is a hellhole, and not for the Republican the taxes are too high sort of shit. That it's just prohibitively expensive to live here right now, because there's no rent control. So like literally like our ability to move around the country, our ability to live and have dependable water supplies. We're going to spend $2 trillion on that over 8 years, and in that 8-year span we're going to spend probably $9 trillion on the military.
Just all the libertarians out there, voting with your feet doesn't fucking work if you don't have infrastructure.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about with infrastructure. I think Dorian, you had some things that
I think I interjected most of the important stuff per infrastructure.
Oh no, I mean I was letting you transition to the stuff that you wanted to bring up. Yeah. Oh
yes,
your special topics.
So I'm not actually able to see the links that we have in order here, but one of the things that I did want to bring up was, of course, the Amazon unionization efforts that are going on. Do we have the links for that I sent in?
Yeah. Is it this one?
Or there's a few of them. Let's see. Well, long story short, we have, I'm sorry, I'm clicking between a huge amount of things here. This connects with the Veritas and everything. So Amazon, as part of a response to these unionization efforts, has taken on this, has developed this group of essentially Twitter trolls, which are under the same nom de plume as like Project Veritas, because all these people are fucking obsessed with like scary sounding Latin names.
And it's interesting that Veritas means truth.
Yeah.
and that they always fall to something like truth to I don't know, it's just such like a comic book villain sort of like, or like the most basic reading of 1984, like they say it's the truth but it's not really the truth.
You know? right and
2 + 2 = 5.
Right. But of course, like the real kind of viral stuff that's come out of this is this like these communications saying like, you don't really believe the people are peeing in bottles, do you?
Yeah, and one
hysterical.
thing I'll make as a quick note about that is if you're ever talking to somebody who has the location of their workplace and their Twitter handle or like their username or whatever, and a lot of these people are like, I'm Deborah from, you know,
store 679 in Washington.
Yeah, basically, like they have a different way of coding. It's like letter and then number or something like that. But anyways, if you ever run into somebody that has that in their name, just don't fucking talk to them. You can't get anything useful out of, like, I have never worked, like, I've had good jobs, I've had jobs that I liked, I've had jobs where I was working for people that I you know, thought were good people. I would never in a million years put it in my fucking like username that, yes, I'm a proud employee of it. Like, if you're a proud employee of anything, like you're not on the right track.
Yeah, right. But what was so part of their kind of like user manual for being one of these essentially like meat puppet Twitter bots?
Well, it's like the Russian trolls, right?
Right. Is that you should allow people complaining about, you know, their work, you know, having to piss in bottles and like break their backs and shit, by allowing them to speak their truth and then responding to it. And I think that's just such an incredible kind of exposure of how kind of neoliberal capitalism works so often, which is that absolutely, if everyone is allowed to just speak their truth and speak from their hearts, and of course be shot down or like kind of ignored or whatnot, if you have a suggestion box in the workplace, then everything's fine. As long as you're able to express it, everything is fine.
Yeah, and it's also very, very postmodernist in how it's like relativist, right? You know, because it's like, okay, we made this, and it goes back to, you know, like the greater structure of neoliberalism, where, you know, like, okay, we hear you and we understand you, and we know that you want to defund the police. We're going to increase the police budgets this year, but it's going to go towards sensitivity training, you know? So like just disingenuous sort of interaction with like, okay, we heard your complaint and we're going to do something completely different than what your complaint is, which is we don't want to fucking pee in bottles anymore because we're so stressed about keeping our completion rates up. And then going like, what we'll do is we're going to hire some of your friends that work on the line with you to actually just become Twitter trolls in their spare time. And guess
what? These Twitter trolls are being rewarded
$50 gift cards
and a 1 day of vacation.
Yeah, 1 day of vacation.
What? For like, and that's not even like per comment.
No, I think that's just as the as the payment.
We just found out what John's price is.
Yeah, right.
Every 240 words he types in defense of a company he's working for, he needs $50 and a day off.
You're damn right.
But
which actually isn't a bad like transaction rate if you're like really shit posting, you know.
No, that's pretty good.
I'll make Bernie Sanders kill himself.
But it's also really interesting, this kind of dissonance when it comes to the fact that, of course, in public facing spheres, they're saying like, no one's ever peed in a bottle before, while they're also sharing internal memos, which keep on leaking about like, you guys have to stop peeing in bottles. If you find bottle pee in the truck, you're gonna get in trouble. No more bottle pee. Please stop doing the bottle pee thing.
Yeah,
and like people have found like bags of shit like in the trucks as well and everything. Like this is
and the specific wording from whoever that Amazon I don't know, Is it like weird to say master, the Amazon master that's putting out this email saying don't shit in the bags anymore? It's gonna be a tier 1 infraction, and it's like, oh god, they have to make these poor fucking people who are working themselves with a fucking bone remember a structure of like what level of infractions are, and like how many tiers of infractions are there, and what is a tier is a tier 1 infraction? I assume it's like degrees of murder, right? Where
it's like the DEFCON system.
Yeah, like 1st degree murder is the worst one. 3rd degree is like more of a you accidentally did it sort of thing. But no, it's a and you know, this is something that you'll see in a lot of highly corporatized workspaces. Like when I had to work at Target for a while, and just one of the worst experiences I've ever had in any kind of workplace was, you know, all this like, we're going to set up a condition where you can't succeed, and then because of that condition, you're going to do something in response to it that isn't ideal according to like what we've written down on paper as the rules, and now you're going to get in trouble for it. And one of the things that was at Target was like, you have to sell Target credit cards to people. And you know, one of the things I did was somebody came through and they were using food stamps to pay for a lot of the stuff. And I didn't try to sell a fucking credit card to somebody who's obviously already like struggling, because the credit rate on those credit cards is just fucking insane. And you know, I'm conscious enough to go like, selling a credit card to this person is immoral. And so I didn't sell a credit card to this person. My manager just like swooped in and he was like, hey, I noticed you didn't bring up the credit card with that last person. And I was like, well, yeah, you know, they were paying with food stamps. I didn't think they really needed a credit card. They've already got financial issues. So, you know, wouldn't be the right thing to do. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have to write you up for that. Sorry. It's like, okay.
No.
Were those human thoughts and emotions that went through your head?
Right.
Right up.
And that's exactly what this is like, these people are being worked to such a point where they're having to shit in bags because, you know, while you're driving your route, and this makes complete sense, there's not a whole lot of public toilets that you can just pop into. And like, what is the toilet break schedule like for somebody that's working for Amazon?
Right.
So you have to shit in a bag because you're a human that has shit building up in your bowels.
Well, just don't eat.
I would suggest, if any of the 3 viewers are Amazon employees, that they probably are the ones shitting in bags.
I hope they are.
To start performing a little bit of malicious compliance and shitting in like little baskets.
Stop shitting. No. Stop shitting in the bags. Cut a hole out in the fucking chair of the vehicle you're operating and just shit on the floor, but underneath the chair, so that in order to clean it up properly, they have to remove the fucking chair every single time.
I have two additional ideas. And number one, that we can just hire gamers, because they're used to poop socking.
Yeah. Poop in socks instead of bags.
But additionally, we can go really old school and just do the traditional thing that everyone used to do when they were teenagers, which is poop in a paper bag and leave it burning on the doorstep of the Amazon headquarters. But well, I never did it on the Amazon headquarters, but just my buddies' places, just people I love.
Yeah, you weren't
so
that based back then.
Stamp it out. Yeah, I wasn't that based. But yeah, I used to work at the Home Depot, and we had the same kind of thing with credit cards and everything. And I remember I had a list of, and maybe this is where my habit came from, of building sock puppets for everything. But we had this like giant list of like fake email addresses and phone numbers and stuff that I would just like give out to employees so that they could just use that. And so, you know, praxis.
So John noticed this at the exact same time that I noticed this. And as I noticed it, he literally moved the cursor over and started highlighting, and I was like, oh my god, are John and I on the same brainwave? Did you see what he just
I think
highlighted?
we're resonating.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so for the listener that is not visually seeing this, there's a side article that says Gaetz sex game. This is Matt Gaetz. Gaetz sex game involved Harry Potter and sorority houses, GOP source says.
amazing.
Ugh.
If you could in a
Do you think he was Harry
Minecraft.
Potter? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, definitely. He was the chosen boy. But if in Minecraft you could sink someone down to bedrock, which Gates would it be? Would it be Bill or would it be Matt?
Well, Matt is a catastrophically dumb person who's too stupid to like perpetuate himself. So Bill Gates, without a doubt.
All right. Then again, in Republican and somewhat Democratic politics, being that much of a dumbass happens to help you fall upwards a bit.
Yeah, but
So,
he's already said that he's not going to run again. He said 2 days before.
So.
Yeah, 2 days before the article from the New York Times came out about his sex scandal, he decided to announce that he wasn't going to run for office again, and he was looking at being hired on at I think it was either Newsmax or OAN. I'm leaning more towards Newsmax on what my memory is giving me.
Yeah.
So he basically said like, yeah, I'm not going to run for office again. I'm going to go to Newsmax after my term. I'm sure they probably already have a deal worked out.
Right.
So it's like I said, he's too fucking dumb to actually perpetuate his career and power. Newsmax is not going to be a thing that lasts very long because it's just also too fucking dumb to like perpetuate itself.
Right.
See, I'm guessing that his GOP masters have had enough with the scandals. Like you said, he can't perpetuate himself. And I don't think anybody's going to perpetuate him anymore.
Yeah,
in politics at least.
He's like to the point where like nobody, even in the GOP, likes him. Apparently, from a lot of like insider sources.
No one in the GOP likes Ted Cruz either.
Yeah, but Ted Cruz is like actually effective at what he does.
Yeah,
and being like a roadblocky sort of like shithead.
Right. I just hate Gates in like a visceral way, and so I want to like
for sure,
make him out to be a larger, not a larger villain because he's obviously a villain, but a larger a problem than he might be on the national stage. But the last thing about Amazon, and this is an older thing as well, it's from a couple of years ago, but their facial recognition software and their deal with the CIA.
Yeah.
So not sure if that's up there, but yeah. So back in 2013, the CIA and Amazon came up with a $600 million deal to last over 10 years. And obviously because of the CIA
John,
transaction.
I think the link to the left of the one that we're on is, there we go.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's going to connect directly into that.
Yeah, but let's start with the right place.
Right. And the Atlantic, we got all sorts of problems with the Atlantic. We have problems with all these different news organizations.
Is a factually sound article.
Yeah, but so there's this deal, and of course, no one really knows. Well, no one who's going to say anything knows really what this deal was about. But it's supposed to last for 10 years. And of course, we've survived through the first 7 to 8 years of it. But conveniently around the same time, they began working on this facial recognition software, which was actually shot down in a couple spaces. We click over to the next link, including Orlando in Florida, of all fucking places. And if Florida is saying no to your weird human experiment, you know that something is going on. But this is theoretically something that they have shut down. But of course, because they're working with the CIA directly or indirectly with this, I wouldn't be surprised if this is still like in R&D and still being worked on.
Can I interject real quick?
Please, yeah.
So this is an article from The Verge that we're looking at. And the starting line is Amazon's controversial recognition platform. Recognition is spelt with a K. And I know that's not a mistake that The Verge made.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers named a platform off of the wrong spelling of recognition.
I mean, that's just tech. You just take out a vowel or you like add in a K or a Y.
Yeah. I just fucking hate that. Like,
oh, it's gross. Yeah.
No creativity.
Not good at communicating.
Mortal Kombat. But I mean, this is of course older news, but it's something that's still likely ongoing. The contract is still in play. And so just keeping all this stuff in mind when we have them developing these bizarro Twitter armies, and that these unionization efforts are ongoing. I mean, limited props to Biden for being at least vocal about supporting unions,
Sure.
and supporting this unionization effort. But props more obviously to someone like Bernie, who's actually like been on the line. But this is important and scary, and something that that needs to be kept in our minds as
because
this continues
there's
forward.
two things to consider when you have something like this being developed, right? Obviously, and I talked about this before we started recording, but I was scrolling through Facebook, just trying to like wipe my mind of everything before we started recording, and I saw this article that was posted by the Washington Post, and it was about how the FBI surveillance network is largely responsible for arresting all of the insurrectionist people on January 6th. And I saw, I decided to stupidly look through the comments and just like see what, because there was like a couple thousand comments, and I was like, oh man, this is like a hot button, like Facebook comments, not even just like on the article itself, but like Facebook comments on this. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll check the comments and see like what the general feel is. And, I'm hoping that like people recognize that like having all these weird surveillance structures in place is not a good thing. And of course, what I saw was a bunch of, neoliberal types with things like Black Lives Matter, portrait borders on their Facebook profile pictures and stuff like that, all saying how it was great that the FBI was able to do this with, all these wonderful technology improvements and stuff like that. And then I saw this guy who was clearly like, maybe not like a full-blown left-winger like we are here, but more nominally towards the left. And he said like, hey, yeah, I think there's some problems with the FBI having this much surveillance technology, even if it works out in our favor this once, like something we should probably like be wary of. And immediately this dude just got jumped on by like every like Karen type that had like a I'm voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris sort of thing going on in their profile.
Blue wave.
Yeah, blue wave sort of stuff, about how like if you're doing nothing wrong, it's not government overreach.
Right.
And so that's the first thing you need to be wary about when you see data capture systems and like facial recognition systems like this. And the second thing that you need to be wary of is like a private company is doing this, and a private company, as we've seen, especially when it comes to like metadata and personal data, is always going to find a way that they can make an enhanced profit off of your information.
I mean, also keep in mind that Amazon, we refer to it as a private company, and it is in literal sense, but
heavily
also
socialized in a lot of ways.
Yeah, heavily socialized in a lot of ways. But in addition to that, it makes more money and has more in its coffers than I forget what the number is, but all but like 16 nations.
Right, yeah.
It itself is a nation. Like this is a nation within nations.
I think, and you watch many of the same videos I watch, and I think that was something that Thought Slime had in one of his videos recently.
Yeah.
And it's verifiable information, but that's where I'm thinking that source came from. Watch his videos; he does good stuff.
Yeah, if you want something easily digestible that's still generally right, yes, Thought Slime's good. Also,
right as in correct.
Yeah, right.
So, are we going to see Amazon invade a country in our lifetime?
Maybe not with troops.
I mean, I would argue that we already have.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, like when we were deployed, we got a lot of stuff delivered from Amazon, right?
Right.
So whether or not, like,
actually,
Amazon,
almost all my stuff was delivered through Amazon.
Whether or not Amazon has like officially invaded a country, they're the ones profiting off of an invasion of a country
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But also keeping in mind that they've literally tried to start like company towns, and they even like as a weird, more like smooth space nomadic kind of way of doing things, they've influenced local and larger than local governments to the degree of like when they were trying to vie for some kind of a new distribution center, and fucking Cuomo ended up lighting up like half of New York orange. Like that kind of symbolic gesture.
What a great guy.
You know, it says something. But how like and people were talking about like renaming themselves and their cities and stuff. Like it's invasion by other means for sure. And it's also the scarier thing because it's in some ways more effective because, you know, as we have like a globalizing system of states, we also have this kind of fluid injection and creeping by different like international and multinational companies that are kind of bleeding into everything. And so by being a state within and without states and borders, there's its own kind of strange polity and kind of invasion going on.
Yeah, and on the notion of company towns like you were talking about, you know, what is the incentive program for that Veritas project, right? It's not actual money. It's time off given to you by the company, and then a gift card that you can only spend with that company. So in some ways, you know, they're already instituting these programs of like return to themselves, where any of the, you know, financial benefits you get from engaging in this extra program are self-contained within the company and can only be used within the company.
Yeah. What is it that you've highlighted, John?
Go ahead. I don't know. I guess in case people who actually watch this, if their eyes just blank out as we scroll through these articles, I like to just highlight things.
Stuff, yeah. No, that's good.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
I like that.
But yeah, for the listener, if I'm sorry, my screen's real blurry. If someone wants to read that out.
I can read it. John highlighted, however, Amazon received significant pushback from the AI community, activists, and civil rights organizations, fearful its inherent flaws would contribute to unlawful surveillance and other rights-infringing activities like racial profiling and wrongful arrests.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, if it wasn't obvious when I was talking about the FBI surveillance and how all these, you know, people with Black Lives Matter borders in the profile pictures, that's a huge thing. Is what happened with a lot of protests is lots of facial recognition technology was being used to track down people who were, you know, maybe less than peacefully protesting, but, you know, justifiably fighting back against the system of oppression, especially given how the police response was to the Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah, and if we're speaking specifically about, you know, people of color and AI, I mean, it is also notable that there have been significant issues
false positives.
With false positives, right, where these, because of the way that these algorithms are written and the things that they look for and recognize, we initially had problems where, you know, African Americans simply were not recognized by these machine learning networks, but now I'm sure that they're faulty in the sense that now that they can recognize that black faces exist, they probably have the standard racist thing where it's like,
y'all look the same.
They all look
me.
the same.
Yeah.
So easy.
No. That's actually incredibly valid, because it turns out.
It sounds like a joke, but it's absolutely the case.
Yeah. When you have programs that are written by people who are trying to find like certain markers, right, in people's faces.
Digital phrenology.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. Almost, it turns into a form of digital phrenology where you're like, okay, well, the average, you know, African American male's skull is such and such size, and so we're going to use that as a marker. And then, you know, their noses are a little bit more broad and flat, and so we're going to use that as a marker. And so you come up with these incredibly vague profiles for people. that may have some kind of like extremely pseudoscientific backing, and so you get a lot of false positives out of this. One thing that I learned, because I have the art history background, is early Kodak film. If you look at old pictures that have white people and black people in them, the black people are like literally like the color of night black. And the reason was that they developed film to capture white faces and not capture like darker complexions. And
Surprised.
This is true for anyone that like falls on a scale like below like a peach color.
Right. I mean, that's just something for everyone to keep in mind that seems obvious, but oftentimes isn't, which is just that the world and our technology are structured by the metrics we apply to it, and it's the metrics are part of in a circuitous way power, because they have to be, right? And so the way that we end up determining what things are or are not, and categories like that, and the way that science and everything move forward is always based on that kind of structuration of power.
Well, and this is something we've talked about before, is that science that doesn't have any informed direction from a humanitarian humanities perspective is always going to deviate down these dark rabbit holes of like,
it's always going to become Unit 731 Jurassic Park.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which
pretty
is
much
a movie we need to make, and I apologize.
Right. So the link I just sent, John, if we could click over to that.
All right, the Pentagon one.
Yeah, Pentagon. So the National Guard has been deployed in the Capitol ever since the inauguration. Well, before the inauguration, I guess, was deployed during the January 6th insurrection thing. Excuse me. So it's kind of this weird like situation where Biden was supposed to be the uniter, but it's hard to think of a president in the last 100 or more years that needed to have an active military presence in the Capitol in order to maintain order.
But Mike, it'll go away just like the TSA did.
Oh well, see that's the problem. Is the article I just linked is that the Pentagon approved a request to continue National Guard support at the U.S. Capitol through May 23rd, 2021. So that's 2-ish months from now, month and a half from now.
Yeah.
And then today we have a very low level attack on the Capitol. Yes, somebody died. Overall, nothing really happened, though.
Yeah, are they really justifying? Are people justifying a knife attack to justify military presence?
Well, so this happened before that attack, and
okay.
I would just like to make the listener aware that you are going to see, and before this attack today, as a result of the January 6th stuff, the lackluster insurrection of a bunch of confused idiots that didn't know what they were doing. There's been a lot of calls by the Democratic Party and of course the Republican Party to increase the policing presence in the Capitol, to give them more tools, to give them more funding, because it's very, very crucially important that the Capitol is protected in this way by a force that we have recognized as being incredibly racist overall, among other issues that they have. And so not only do we have that at play, but we have the National Guard literally maintaining an occupation of the Capitol right now. And it's not even necessary. The National Guard was obviously activated because some guy tried to ram through a barricade. But it's like, do you really need that National Guard response? Obviously not, because it was handled before the National Guard was even like able to deploy fully. The guy got out with a knife and was shot and killed. He only killed somebody because he used his vehicle to kill that one person, and then his vehicle was trapped up in a barricade.
And again, noting that, DC is a space that has a higher population than many states do, does not have any real representation, and is largely people of color. And so this is a disenfranchised and huge population that is now essentially under martial mandate. Like,
absolutely, yeah,
a little perturbing.
So just wanna make the listener aware that what you're gonna see is more pushes for, I would guess, an extension of the National Guard beyond the May 23rd deadline for their removal. Already,
it's like a removal from Iraq and Afghanistan.
Deadlines that we just can't make. Sorry, guys.
Look, it'll destabilize DC if we pull them out of there.
Right. Oh yeah.
Which, I mean that's kind of the argument that's being made. And oh boy, what does that say about what we got going on?
It says liberals have short memories.
Yes.
Maybe after a decade or 2 decades of our military training their police, maybe we can pull the military.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be really cool when the DC police start putting on camouflage utilities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The last thing that I had was moving back to our best friend Jordan B Peterson.
Oh yeah, I think that's the black square with the 3 white dots in it up there.
And towards the middle.
Towards the middle, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Ugh.
So this is again an older thing, but something that is certainly notable. And it's kind of we can reduce it down to one quote, but essentially the problem is that he, while at Cambridge, he kind of muscled his way into a fellowship at Cambridge, and essentially the academic work that he did there was extremely faulty and based on a whole lot of work that contradicted his claims. And this is notable because of the fact that this stuff is central to his vision of everything being archetypal, right? That everything is structured off of like Marduk and Tiamat are living within your subconscious because they live in all of our subconsciousnesses together. It's a whole fucking nightmare. Because he's ignoring the fact that the things like the story of Marduk and Tiamat is in fact also responding to things which were occurring historically. He thinks that it's just a thing that magically appears in our minds at the beginning of time, when in fact this was a story that was largely written about political goings-on. Just like everything is written, if not about politics, about things that are happening in the real world, and everything is informed by something previous.
Well, I mean, but that stuff's recent, so it's propaganda. It's not
right.
It's not old art.
It's not transcendent. Yeah. This is religious, and so it can't be propaganda, even though it literally is. Yeah.
Religion has never been used for propaganda.
But so he's essentially claiming that it's the reverse of the general academic, I don't want to use such a weak word as consensus, but our understanding of how humanity in the humanities and in history function, which is that categories come from nowhere, categories like archetypes, and then the world develops. When it's absolutely and obviously the other way around, that the world develops and then we produce categories and understandings from there. And of course it becomes circuitous at that point in time, but this claim that things just appear from nowhere is really bizarre. But the quote from the article that I want to read off, and apologies, it's a little long, but it's rich, is while doing this research, I discovered an author who, despite his obvious passion for mythology and religion, does not study sacred texts in their historical contexts. In addition, he, meaning Peterson, does not bother to investigate contemporary scholarship on any of the texts he cites. Instead, his understanding relies heavily on a handful of early to mid 20th century authors like Carl Jung, Mircea Eliade, and Joseph Campbell, 3 popularizers of myth who share, as religious scholar Robert Elwood put it, intellectual roots in the anti-modern pessimism and romanticism that helped give rise to European fascism. This is not to say that these authors have no value. I read them voraciously when I was younger, so did I. And I can tell you that while I still think this is useful about each, but serious scholars engage critically with primary sources and what has been said about those sources by experts in the field. Peterson, in contrast, mainly uses myths to suggest that in his own personal worldview mirrors a natural, evolutionarily determined process. He does this by assuming that myths, too, are generally formed according to a similarly natural, evolutionarily determined process. But even ancient narratives have origin stories, and failing to understand the text and context is often a recipe for profoundly misunderstanding its significance. So that's a rant and a takedown, and absolutely based in the primary one of the primary problems in his scholarship.
For sure, yeah.
Is that it has an empty core.
Yeah, and like the foundation of something like Jung, like
yeah,
obviously not completely useless as you read Jung, but man, does Jung have some problems,
Yeah, I mean the real difference between Jung and Freud as they developed psychoanalysis was that Freud decided to build these kind of clinical models just as Peterson does, which are then kind of hysterical both in the Freudian sense and otherwise, and don't actually make sense, while Jung went on to actually have psychotic breaks and write about them as philosophy. And so again, it's empty scholarship based again on, and I like Jung in a lot of ways, but largely empty scholarship.
Yeah.
Joseph Campbell is the best person on that list, by the way. And even then,
not too familiar with him.
He's the monomyth guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that's
Hero's
Dan
Journey.
Harmon.
Yeah, Dan. Oh,
yeah, Dan Harmon is the monomyth guy.
Yeah, Dan Harmon, again for everyone, claimed to have invented the monomyth in one of his little online lecture things, and it's
despite being preceded by 100 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think we filled out about an hour and a half of runtime, so that's pretty good. So with your workshop, do you have any announcements you'd like to make? Anything you'd like to throw out there?
I have started, largely due to the efforts put in by someone you may be aware of, but Michael Deebs from the Benzo Rehab Dungeon. You're right. He's helped me construct a forum for my workshop. I do have a couple open spots for it that are being funded by some of my tutoring students. I'm just taking their tutoring fees and applying them to people joining in on this. So if you want to join in on the workshop and in the forum thusly, or if you're just interested in one or the other, reach out to me through Instagram, probably. But it's just a general space for shitposting and asking questions and sharing your art, no matter what kind of art it is. And whether you want it workshopped or whether or not you just want people to look at it and say, oh, that's nice. Just reach out, and it's a good space for all that.
It's important to note that this is being run as its own actual website. So there's if you're worried about Facebook regulations all the time, which I mean, earlier this year I got reported 9 times by the Facebook algorithm for instances of racism.
Yeah,
and when I would the ones that it would actually let me look through was where I was shit posting saying hey, maybe we should kill all white people or something like that.
I was just reported on Instagram for posting the explain to lose to me or I'll fucking kill you.
They're exactly. And so these platforms are run by people who are going to censor you. And they do have a legal right to censor you because it's a private corporation. And
but so is ours. So
yes,
you can pop on, and I probably won't ban you.
Yeah, we will only ban you. I'm saying we because I've been given an inordinate amount of power in this.
It's true.
This forum.
Which there is a Benzo Rehab subsection for this.
Thanks, babe.
But yeah.
Yeah, we'll only ban you if you suck. It's not going to be based off of like whether you post something transgressive or something that's not normally accepted in society. It's only going to be like on a suck or not suck basis.
Yeah, based or cringe basis. Yeah.
We like cringe. We like cringe sometimes if it's the right kind of cringe.
Too cringe or too based, unacceptable.
Yeah. I don't know if we ever want to develop like a serious set of forum rules or anything like that. I don't think that's really our mode.
No, I'm putting up some like suggestions in general, like modes for mostly the workshop, but for like formal rules, like mostly just don't be a fucking asshole.
We're a little bit anarchistic, so we do it
horizontal.
Stop shitting in the bags.
Yeah, stop shitting in bags.
But we also won't put you in a position where you need to shit in a bag. So if you shit in a bag, you're just being a dick at that point.
You might be so engaged with the forum that you decide to poop sock to keep posting. Never stop posting, friends. Never stop posting.
So yeah, you've got that going on, and we're very excited about it. It's using the old PHP BB.
Takes me back.
Yeah, and it's one of the best things you can do for forums.
For sure.
Without like developing your own system, which is more money than we have to throw at something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're both pretty excited about that, and wanted to give you a chance to talk about that before we sign off. Unless anybody has anything else, I think we're done here. Our work is done.
My last little thing, and maybe this is a little early to announce this, but next month we have another open workshop. Again, every 5th Saturday we have an open workshop for literally anyone to come in. We haven't decided on the theme yet, but if you have any interest, something that you really want to look over, be it abstract concept or a certain author or something, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll be keeping people up to date.
What day is that happening?
It's going to be the 5th Saturday of May, so in 2 months, really, so really early to announce this, but that's going to be May 29th.
Okay.
Awesome. And I'll be in a good mood because this will be briefly after my birthday, and I'll be very old and hysterical about that. And I'll probably have extra booze around, so I'll be in a good mood.
And last time we had one of these open workshops, there was almost 20 people, right?
Depends on the time. It breached 20 at points, so it was it was a good crowd, and people were really kind of engaged. And if you want to come to any of these things and just lurk, feel free. There's no pressure for anyone to engage more than you're comfortable with. But yeah, we have some real bright minds and some great artists, and it really is split. Yeah, and even us. But it really is split pretty neatly between artistic stuff and theory, and so if you're there for one or the other, then it's a good space for you.
Definitely. All right, well, thank you everybody who has listened to this or watched this. We love you. Please take your medicine.
Please take mine.
Hi, Michael Deebs here, with no gun pointed at my head. Please know that all content created for the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is and always will be freely available. However, if you would like to support this creation of content, we here at Camp Benzo would appreciate it, as the production itself is not free of cost. Anything donated will go to covering the various subscription fees maintained for content production or improving and expanding the content produced. If you are able to, please head on over to patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon. We also have shirts for sale on Teespring, all priced as low as we can get them without turning much or any profit. They are mostly so that you can show your loved ones that a necessary intervention may be on the horizon. Links to the merchandise storefront and our various social media profiles can be found on our link tree, which is the word link tr.ee/BenzoRehabDungeon. As always, we love you. Please take your medicine.